Hello, everybody. Welcome to your post-daily news show for Tuesday, March the 22nd. I am John Pollock alongside Wai Ting. Hello, Wai.
Hey, John. How you doing?
I'm tired. I'm very tired.
I can see why that might be. We just came off of recording a show, of course, this week's Rewind Away, number 106, talking about ROH Supercard of Honor featuring the Young Bucks versus the Hardy Boys.
Yes.
But I also know because you had quite the evening.
Well, yes. The crowd at the Lakeland Center was on fire, and at about 4:30 in the morning, I awoke to just this screeching alarm, and I'm just in a daze at this point. I assume that my phone is just going off, but no, my entire house, the fire alarm, all of them. We have like this network of alarms. They are all going off. It's like, what is happening here? And it was a mad dash to figure out what is going on. These alarms went on for about 8 minutes. There was no fire, so I was not too concerned. It was more so, it's almost 5 a.m, and these are 6 alarms blaring at just a screeching level as our 2 kids are reacting to all of this. So anyway, long story short, we had to exit our house per the request of the fire department, and then 2 fire trucks show up at 5 a.m. We've got like 6 firemen entering the home. I was like, oh my goodness, this seems excessive. And they're not 100% sure what the issue is. Like, the default was like, this has to be a battery issue. The battery to get into the, is this going on too long? The battery is supposed to be like a 10-year, like that's what it's like, good for 10 years. And we're just over 5 of this battery. The other issue is like a potential cleaning issue, which we've actually done. But hoping that this is not a recurring problem. And that was my morning. And so I fell back asleep for like an hour, but I've essentially been up since 5 a.m.
That sucks for your sleep schedule, but I mean, glad it wasn't. It was.
It would have been a way worse day if. But that was like, we got up. It was like there was no fire. There was nothing to be too concerned about. It was just what is triggering all of this. These alarms have literally never gone off since we have lived at this house. So it was also figuring out the system, and we essentially just had to wait it out for these like 8 minutes until these alarms stopped. But it was more so just frustrating.
But it created maybe the best photo of your son that I think there possibly is.
Well, at 5 a.m. or so, when the firemen were inside, like Max thought this was the most exciting thing when he saw these fire trucks show up, and he got to see 2 fire trucks in person, and then ran to his like toy area to put on his fire hat and talk to the fireman about how he got his fire hat, and it was it was rather adorable. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm not sharing this photo, so do not make that request. But Wai has seen it. It was just.
I'll reenact it. He was looking like this. It was so cute.
So it made it all worth it for that. As these 6 very understanding firemen probably just was like, what the hell is going on here?
I'm sure they
gave us the clean bill, so
they'd rather one of these than actually having to,
better to know that your fire alarms work than that they don't work. So
true.
There you go. Have you ever had your fire alarm go off?
Yeah, like from cooking. Sometimes like opening the oven, it tends to trigger it. So, but thankfully nothing more serious than that.
I used to live in an apartment by myself, and dude, we would get fire alarms like nonstop. There was times we had to evacuate in the middle of the night, and they were always false alarms, which I was like, man, people are not going to believe when there really is an emergency. People are not going to want to leave their apartment because they're just going to assume it's a false alarm. But man, we got these all the time.
I had one happen while living in a condo during like the Raptors playoffs, like during the championship season.
Not
And
leaving for this.
it was like the last quarter, so I was like
Oh,
debating,
boy.
do I leave? I ended up leaving, watching it on my phone, and then like everybody was just like, "Is this shit over already? Can we go back?"
Well, on that front, did you have any crazy stories since Raw last night?
No, not like yours. I went to sleep. I had a good night's sleep, so
Well, that's
I'm
wonderful.
sorry.
We have just recorded our review of Supercard of Honor from 2017. That's going to be out later today as we go back to April 2017, a show headlined by the Hardys and the Young Bucks in a ladder match for the ROH tag titles. Imagine that, the Hardys and the Young Bucks in the same company together and having a match together.
Unbelievable. Yeah. What a way to maybe, bookend their WWE runs by looking back at what I would say was their last great match outside of the WWE.
Yes, so that will be available later for all members at postwrestlingcafe.com. We will have 2 rewind-aways before the end of the month. And, of course, those that sign up will also get the beginning of our WrestleMania week coverage. We're planning many bonus shows for patrons throughout WrestleMania week/weekend, which is drawing closer. And we will be getting into the latest on WrestleMania plans later in the show. But let us circle back to Friday and our ratings report. Friday Night SmackDown doing 2,147,000 viewers, a 0.58 in the demo, down 3.5% in viewers, up 1% in the demo. So basically no changes. Collisions, keep everything in line for this week. They were behind CBS's coverage of the NCAA basketball tournament, so not winning the night, but it was through exceptional circumstances with the NCAA tournament. Rampage, on the other hand, was moved out of its time slot. It didn't start till 11:49 p.m. Eastern time and did 398,000 viewers and a 0.13 in the demo. So moving out of that time slot, they lost 24% of their viewership. And what was interesting that in 18 to 49, 18 to 34, and 35 to 49, not the same numerical losses, but by percentage, all 3 of those categories were down the exact same. They were down 41% in all 3 of those groupings. And this was, if you thought like the basketball game was going to give it this giant wave, that was at least not the case overall for the show. But again, this was outside of its time slot. I also didn't think it was a lineup that even your average AEW consumer was going to be going out of their way to stay up late for. It's like, this to me was an easy show that I'll either DVR it, skip this week, or just find another time to watch it. I don't think this was a lineup that demanded live viewing either.
I think it's a good opportunity, though, to... Whoa, Jesus.
Jeez, don't tell me there's an
one
earthquake.
One of these just fell down.
Oh, goodness. Way.
Got to call the fire department. Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity to at least, see who your diehard fans are that are willing to, stick around till 11:49 on a Friday to catch one of these shows.
Like, seriously, they told you 11:30 or when the game ends. So you're talking about an audience that's probably tuning in right around 11:30 and waiting almost 20 minutes for this game to end and still doing like 166,000 in your key demo. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not putting any kind of significant stock into any of this, but it's remarkable they had the audience that they did for this late, and again for a lineup that is led by Keith Lee and Max Caster. Like, it wasn't the most attractive lineup by Rampage standards in the least.
Yeah. So not a week where you look too deep into it.
And Canada also had to wait. Like, TSN Direct, like, they could have, in theory, I'm sure it was AEW did not want their broadcast partners airing it earlier.
For what we can see, they just pick up the TNT feed, and if TNT hasn't started, could TSN?
Yeah, you're right, because it seems like it's just they take the straight feed. It's not like they have like a tape of it like you would get, the back in the day when SmackDown was on the 2-day delay, the Score would get it earlier, and there was a time we would get SmackDown earlier in Canada than the US did. Mm-hmm. But not the case on last Friday. Latest in terms of WrestleMania. We have the Kickoff show that the USA Network is advertising the first night's Kickoff to air on the USA Network from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern time, and PW Insider confirming that is the plan. So a 2-hour Kickoff show. No word on whether they will mirror this on Sunday with the Kickoff show, but getting this onto television, which will mean that, I would think like that guarantees the fact that this Kickoff will have to feature several wrestling matches on top of it. We've kind of gotten into this pattern where it's 1-hour Kickoff shows, and it's pretty much the panel and video packages and interviews for that hour. I would say if USA is picking this up, you're structuring it around wrestling matches, which should get more people onto the card, or some of the matches that we've seen announced get bumped to the Kickoff show.
Yeah, definitely. It would also say that, I mean, they usually have a lot of commercials on these kickoffs anyway, but now they have to format it for television. And so a lot of video packages, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of WrestleMania 38, so coming out of Raw, the latest additions, we have RK Bro, the Street Profits, and Alpha Academy that have been added to night 1 of the show for the Raw Tag Team Championships. And Omos will be squaring off against someone with balls.
Somebody with balls. Okay, so rules out about half the human population. Okay.
And Akira Tozawa's were compromised on Monday, so he might be out of the running for that.
That is correct. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is a big mystery.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, how can Seth Rollins not find a spot on this show? Come on, pretty much everybody has a match.
Maybe he wants his kickoff moment.
He should answer Omos's challenge. It's right there.
That would be...
why doesn't he do that?
That is a bit of a glaring hole where Omos is...
He has balls.
Yeah, I think so.
Are they big enough balls, though?
Oh, okay. Well, maybe there can be a measuring, and then if the circumference is at a satisfactory level, then Omos will have an opponent.
Oh, enough.
I want to ask you a question, okay, Wai? So let's say... post wrestling just implodes. Okay, we're done. We're out of business, and it's WrestleMania week. You are on your own schedule. What do you think you're actually going out of your way to see? How would you be approaching a week like this?
You mean WrestleMania weekend or the show?
Yeah, WrestleMania and the accompanying shows. Like, what would you be carving out time to catch up on, to follow? Like, what stands out as we're just over a week away from all of these shows beginning?
I always have a real curiosity for the GCW offerings. To me, there's always a bit of a good originality and surprise attached to them. So I'd be curious to check out at least, certain moments from spring break. I'm always a fan of the Bloodsport shows, so I'll probably check out like at least the main event or something like that. And Supercard of Honor, to me, like probably has my most interest now. Of anything WrestleMania weekend, just because of the it's our chance to see what Tony Khan's direction is, or at least partially what his direction is for a show like this, and what announcements they'll make, who keeps the titles, and just a feel of a new Ring of Honor and what that's going to look like.
Do you think Tony Khan needs to appear on that show? Have a message, whether it be taped or live? Like, I think a lot of people are tuning into this show almost for like what is the future of Ring of Honor, and there's nobody else to deliver that beyond Tony Khan. Like, this is Tony Khan's project.
I think that would be nice. I know he doesn't make too many on-camera appearances, but I think for special occasions he does, and this is one of those special occasions. Like the first show under his direction, he should start the show, or at least have some segment in there where he can talk about his love for the company and his love for the brand and what fans can expect. I think that would be nice.
What about heel Impact Wrestling Tony Khan, who announced, "I bought my competition"?
I think that would be a bad way to start, any sort of shtick. Who do you think calls that show?
I could not see anyone calling that show other than Ian Riccaboni. I think he is so synonymous with Ring of Honor. And maybe you just go with like Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman, like unless you have a different team in mind. So much of Ring of Honor is contingent on a TV deal or where, and I don't even know that Tony Khan would know the answer to that question as we speak. So until that's settled, it's.
But this is a demo. isn't it?
It is, yeah. And maybe you want to have, like, if we were TV ready, this is what we're going forward with. And if you have a broadcast team in mind, yeah, you go with that. I wouldn't be making this a nostalgia show. This is about Final Battle was your farewell show. This is about the next chapter of how Tony Khan envisions Ring of Honor. And it's one where if people are tuning in, like, there's a lot of competition. The Friday night is insanity when it comes to the amount of shows. That if people are buying this show, they want to see a great show, and I think they want to see, like, what is the future of ROH. That's why they are tuning in for this. I think that is, to me, bigger than any of the matches. I think is just any kind of big message or news about where ROH goes after this.
Yeah, certainly. I want to know what the show looks like. I know part of the deal was that Tony Khan got to acquire a lot of the Ring of Honor camera equipment, but is he going to use it, or is he going to use AEW's own production? One of the things that's always plagued Ring of Honor has been, I think, a perceived, step down in terms of production quality, and this is his chance to address it, especially if he wants to try to aim for some TV deals coming off of it.
I would think, like, some easy ideas would be at least tape messages from your Hall of Fame inductees.
Yeah, or live appearances. Come on, why not?
I don't think there's any reason why you couldn't do that unless there was, like, a scheduling issue with, like, a Punk, because we know he is taping heels. But at the very least, I think to record a message, if Kerry Silkin's there for both the Hall of Fame and just for historical purposes as, like, the ambassador, will he continue to be the thread for Ring of Honor throughout these different ownerships?
And in the weeks ahead, I mean, this is his chance to, I guess, really catch some buzz by rolling out these announcements. Of course, he just announced Lee Moriarty versus Jay Lethal, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see in the days to come.
That's right. So that Friday night, by the way, so you've got the New Japan Strong show, which is a very good looking card on paper. SmackDown and the Hall of Fame. Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor, and then the Impact show starts at, ROH is at 8, Impact is at 10 Eastern. So the Briscoes are on both of those shows.
It's going to be a lot of cross-city commuting, as always, for Ring of Honor, WrestleMania weekend.
And then Joey Janela's Spring Break is part 2 is late Friday night at 1 a.m. Eastern time, early Saturday. So yeah. The Friday is insanity of all of them.
And we will try to cover at least as much of this as we're physically able to. But I think it's, this part is kind of understated, but like, last year, of course, like, a lot of people came back to WrestleMania weekend, but this year to me feels like it's really a fully packed week like we've had in years past.
I don't sense like there's going to be any of the hesitation that maybe last year did. And that goes for promoters too about, man, do I book a show for WrestleMania weekend like last year? Like, it'd be automatic. You go to WrestleMania weekend and it's like, can we draw a crowd? I don't think that same level of hesitation is going to be there this year. And I haven't like looked at like who's booked the most, but the name I see on so many of these shows is Speedball Mike Bailey, who I guess is really like, this is his big return for US, for the biggest weekend of the year in the US. Like, he is booked all over the place next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, just the even talk of like who's going to end up being the talk of WrestleMania weekend is very exciting for me.
Dude, that Spring Break part 2, Speedball Mike Bailey against PCO, like
that's incredible. This is coming off of a match with Jay White that he has earlier in the evening.
Yeah, he's going to be a very, very busy individual coming up next weekend. New Japan has announced its card for Saturday, which is the semifinals of the New Japan Cup. So the 2 semifinal matches, as we talked about Monday, Kazuchika Okada against Tetsuya Naito and Shingo Takagi versus Zack Sabre Jr. The rest of that card will feature Will Ospreay and Aaron Hanare against Hiromu Takahashi and Bushi, Jeff Cobb and the Great Okan against Yoshihashi and Yo, Shima, T-Hawk and El Lindemann, the Strong Hearts, against Hiroki Goto, Tiger Mask, and Tomoaki Honma. A 6-man with El Desperado, Taka Michinoku, and Doki versus Evil, Sho, and Yujiro. Tomohiro Ishii, Togi Makabe, and Toru Yano against Taichi, Minoru Suzuki, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. And in the unofficial main event, it's a 10-man tag, folks. Hiroshi Tanahashi with the Gorillas of Destiny, the students of Team 3D, as they told that story in 2017, with Ryusuke Taguchi and Master Wato against El Phantasmo, Taiji Ishimori, Chase Owens, Bad Luck Fale, and Geto.
Yes, that is right. This is a New Japan show. Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a big main event, certainly. Anytime you have, your top stars in Okada and Naito together, I mean, there's going to be a big match feel. And also, but I mean, yeah, for me, it's Shingo versus Zack that I'm probably looking forward to the most.
I mean, that's going to be an incredible match, and whatever the final is, if they go with Okada to, I shouldn't rule out that Zach could win that match. Like he's kind of got like he's been playing up like the momentum in the tournament. Like they could really go with almost any of these. I would say Okada would be the biggest dark horse to win the actual tournament. Like he should lose to minimum one person to set up a future challenger. But whether it's like they just did him and Naito, so I was very surprised that Cobb lost that match. But they could have Naito continue this streak where he continues to luck his way without using the Destino, and that could set up, with him. Anyway, you could go any of these. Naito and Zack, you have like that issue from the G1 last year with the injury and such to play off of as well. So anyway, it's an intriguing Final Four. Maybe not an intriguing overall field, but now that once they got to the Final Eight, that's I think when the real tournament began.
Shingo Naito to me would be the most interesting.
Yeah, I think so. That you could certainly do a very rare collision, minus a forklift. There was an incident on late Monday night involving Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal. They got into a physical altercation at the Poppy Steak restaurant in Miami Beach, and authorities were called, but there were no reports as of late about any arrests, but the cops were called to the scene. And TMZ did obtain photos, or video, I should say, of Colby Covington, who I guess was hanging out with Bob Menery of the Nelk Boys. Are you familiar with the Nelk Boys?
I never heard of that name until you just mentioned it.
Well, Colby was on the guy's podcast earlier in the day, and the video, you can hear Colby going up and saying, how did he know I was here? And the guy is just saying, I don't know, you're all over the internet. And Bob Menery had posted a video of them earlier inside of the restaurant. So it sounds like allegedly Masvidal just showed up at the restaurant, and as Colby Covington was exiting the restaurant, that's when the altercation occurred. Masvidal's manager, Malki Kawa, has been alluding to the fact that Colby may have lost a tooth, which we are not sure is confirmed or not. And then Masvidal put up a video challenging him to a show your face contest, showing off there were no marks on Masvidal's face, and said, if you talk shit, you've got to back it up. And this comes just weeks after their fight at UFC 272, where Colby Covington won by decision. So I guess the question is if any charges get pressed here, and if this is something where they try to work this into a rematch.
I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, you're talking about maybe the most pro wrestling angle that I've seen.
We should also mention what seems to have really set off Masvidal was the fact that Covington brought up Masvidal's kids in his interviews and such. Like Colby Covington has gone past the line in some of the stuff that he has said about Dustin Poirier and his wife. There is no line that Covington is not going to cross for reaction, and this is a case of it, having blowback.
Listen, there are some guys that I think, take the tools that professional wrestling gives you and uses it to, I think, provide great entertainment and, make a lot of money. And certainly I think Colby Covington has made a lot more money, but he's also, I think, used the tools of pro wrestling just to an extreme that's just really distasteful for me. So I have very little interest in him.
I think a lot of people would kind of echo that. Like it's not kind of their scene, but I mean he has definitely increased his star power as a result of this, even though it has turned off a lot of people with where he has decided to go. Last thing we'll touch on is tonight's episode of NXT 2.0 with 2 episodes to go until Stand and Deliver, and they have announced Braun Breaker taking on Robert Roode. A-Kid versus Grayson Waller in another qualifying match for the North American title ladder match at Stand and Deliver. Another qualifying match, Roderick Strong against Solo Sikoa. GYV taking on the Creed brothers, and the finals of the women's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, Io Shirai and Kaylee Ray taking on Dakota Kai and Wendy Chu. Will Dakota and Wendy Chu go all the way and win the tournament? I'd say no.
Yeah, I don't think so either. doesn't feel headlining enough to me to have them on Stand and Deliver. Whereas I think Io and Kaylee Ray probably, are they're going to have a spot on the show. But yeah, I think it's it's a fine, solid show to me. Like it's never kind of blowing me away, of course, but I think it's typically logical, and I think the action is okay. Like it's fine. It's I don't know if that's an endorsement.
NXT 2.0 ... It's fine. It's fine.
I'll even go as to say it's good sometimes. Like it's a cohesive show that to me doesn't drag.
If you like when you see like what is its role in the function of WWE, like that's the function it is serving. And it's a blessing and a curse that they're continuing with the NXT branding. That it's so attached to what this product was up until a year, or not even a year ago, like 8 months ago. So that's going to follow NXT, but there's good and bad attached to it. And you have had some breakouts in like a Braun Breaker that has thrived in this system.
And it manages to stay fresh by introducing new people, part of the new class of Performance Center recruits. I'm sure in a few months' time, we're going to quickly see them have some sort of role on NXT. And then also, the constant seems like pathway of main roster guys that'll come in to, have a bit of a refresh and feel. So do you think that continues tonight?
In terms of like main roster involvement? I could certainly see, like, I'm curious, like, if the Mysterios have, because it was interesting last week, like, they're paired with The Miz and Logan Paul for WrestleMania, but last week you had The Miz and the Mysterios on the show, but it was not for their program. It was like separate things where you had the Mysterios with Legado del Fantasma, and you had The Miz doing the segment with Dolph Ziggler. Like, it was not like they were just there to interrupt The Miz or anything like that. So, like, personally, I think Dominic would benefit greatly from being... I would say in like the prior NXT system where they were at least doing live events, I don't know if necessarily going to NXT 2.0 is going to be dramatically different than Raw, where you do have house shows, even though they're limited ones. It's a very tough role to be developing talent in today's WWE, and there's going to be no greater test than Gable Steveson. That, in the old days, it would have been send him to OVW for a year, get him working all these small towns where we are not putting him on anything beyond like the local television in that market, and then we will pull him up. Like today, Brock Lesnar would have been signed after winning the NCAA championship in 2000, and he probably would have been on TV by the fall. And we all saw how limited Brock was when he was first introduced, and he was protected, but he was very, very basic when he was brought up, but they stuck with him. He got over, and he turned into an incredible talent within 12 months on the main roster. And I think Gable Steveson, it's going to be accelerated in terms of like that expectation and making back your investment in this guy.
Yeah, certainly. An Olympic cycle to be able to brag that you're a world champion, defending world champion, or at least current world champion in the Olympics. I mean, that only lasts for so many years, so they're going to do what they can to take advantage of that buzz. We have a few super chats, John, before we get out of here. As always, you guys, if you're tuning in live on our YouTube channel, you can always send a super chat in support of the site. And we first go to Jake from the Windy City. Thank you for the support as always, Jake. He sends $5 to ask, who is next for Colby Covington? I know he called up Poirier, but to me, he's in a track to get that 155-pound title shot. Maybe the winner of Burns Chimaev.
I don't see Colby going down to 155. Like he fights it at welterweight. I think that is the best weight class for him. I mean, he's talking about wanting to go up to 185 to fight Kamaru Usman, which to me would be, I don't see that fight happening. But Covington, like I don't think you look at him as somebody that is going to be, being put in like the most competitive of fights. When you look at the people that he is going after, like he is going for fights that could stand alone to headline pay-per-views that are not necessarily championship fights or even relevant to his weight division in the case of like a Dustin Poirier. So I just think Colby's in a tough position because he now has 2 losses. He was talking about going up to 185 to fight Adesanya, not 170. He's had the 2 fights with Kamaru Usman and fought him as close as anyone has. It's just, he is in a division where Kamaru Usman is, I think, the better fighter, and we've seen that 2 times out. So he can do like interesting fights. I personally don't have any interest in seeing another Jorge Masvidal fight after they just had the last fight. I think it was very, significantly favored Colby Covington, and that's how it played out. So I think it's going to be fights that are going to generate the most interest, and I don't know if a Gilbert Burns or like a Chimaev possible, but I don't know if Colby is going to be looking for that kind of a fight, and you're seeing like, realizing the interest that he had with, a former teammate like Masvidal, a former teammate in Dustin Poirier. There's going to be more juice into those fights, and I think those are the ones he seeks out.
Thank you for your support, Jake. We go to John Kleinchester, who sends a $5 super chat. Thank you for your support, John. He asked, when Cody debuts at Mania, what music does he come out to?
I think he'll come out to Downstate. I think that's the theme. He has the rights to it. It would be foolish not to use it. I think that's what he uses.
I think so too.
I don't think Smoke and Mirrors is making a comeback.
Eventually, maybe, when they run out of juice of this Cody return. But to me, like what Vince is paying for, what the WWE is paying for, is the AEW Cody Rhodes. It's a direct, like, as much as I think, Tony Khan is willing to use Loaded for the Hardy Boys reappearance, I think Vince should play the same game and just directly translate this person from one universe to his universe. That, to me, is the appeal. He should show up in the, like the Homelander jacket with the blonde hair and look exactly the way he did last time we saw him on AEW. That is the holy shit moment, to see him return as, any of his prior gimmicks or something completely different with brown hair, I think is a waste,
Maybe Seth Rollins shows up as Stardust.
Or half Stardust. Half blonde hair, half Stardust.
Yeah, that would be something. Yeah, but to answer your question, I think Downstate. I think it'd be silly to go with anything else.
Downstate should be there live. Come on, we got to get a live Downstate performance.
Well, there we go.
Does he break the throne? Does the throne show up?
In another era, I could have seen like the broken throne is out there, and he goes and he patches it back together. Has some duct tape.
Spent like 2 hours.
like no joke. If this were, if not for like the health situation, just where Paul Levesque is, like that was the match. That was the match, and I mean, no one can speak for like if like what Hunter's future is wrestling, but that was the match to do.
No, it's a ready-made program, honestly. Hopefully Triple H will be healthy enough to come back, or just healthy enough, period.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's looking at the wrestling future for Paul Levesque anytime soon. So thank you to everybody for your super chats. Again, we're back later this evening with Rewind Away. We're up to number 106. This is exclusive for Cafe members, a review of ROH Supercard of Honor 2017, 5 years ago. And the fun part about these shows is we also go back and go through all the major news items from the week. And man, were there some interesting ones that week surrounding WrestleMania and everything else going on in wrestling and MMA from 5 years ago, which is an eternity in pro wrestling.
A lot, yeah. We happen to be there for this weekend, so we have, some of our memories from WrestleMania 32? 33.
Yes, the roller coaster set, which some might say is the best WrestleMania set.
Is one of my favorites. Yeah,
that super long ramp. Yeah, it was like in terms of the set construction, that was a high end one.
We're probably pretty close to like at least getting some leaks of what the current WrestleMania set's going to look like.
Yeah, it could be. Maybe it's going to become an NFT after
the set.
I don't even know what that means.
You mean a photo of the set or the actual set?
Yeah, maybe someone can get a leaked photo and turn that into an NFT.
You can turn anything into an NFT.
I guess so.
days.
All right. We are not turning this into an NFT. We have to get going. But thanks to everybody for joining us. We will be back in the same time on Wednesday. Subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up. We are knocking on 10K's door, and we are going to smash it with a sledgehammer. It will not be able to be reconstructed once we smash through that figure. The sky is the limit.
It is.
Post wrestling. ... It's fine. Goodbye, everybody.